Hello, it's the Way Show. Thanks for joining. My name is Wole, and it's another Sunday. Okay, and thank you, like I said, for joining us on the Way Show. Always what we do is always look at the personalities in Africa making waves, or people that are doing something special within their, you know, within their lives, how they're affecting the lives of a typical African person, child, adult groups, you know. So that's what we do on the Way Show. So if this is the first time you're joining us, don't forget to like, subscribe to the show, like us, give us a thumbs up, have a look at our previous editions, and if you like what we are doing, please don't forget to give us the thumbs up. Okay. So, like I said, my name is Wally, and my producer, Yomi, is just behind the scene, making sure you can hear me and obviously see me. So today we've got someone all the way from South Africa. We're going to be talking about that person. We're talking about her foundation. She's got a foundation helping people in South Africa, even at a young age that she is. And we're going to also be talking about football because she's also passionate about football. She is a journalist. She's a content creator, and she is Nozibusiso Sibiya. Just let me know if I pronounced that well, and if it's okay for me to call you Nosy.
I think, firstly, hi to everyone. I think you tried, but it's actually Nozibusiso.
Nosy, Mosi. So, okay, what
Yes,
does that mean?
Nozibusiso. It means mother of blessings.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, so
Mother
in
blessings.
isiZulu, if your name starts with no, it means mother, and then the meaning of
Oh,
that.
okay, in Zulu. Okay,
Yes,
yeah, and
yes.
I noticed you. Did you say did I read that you're writing a book or something in Zulu, or is that correct? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, so I've written a book in isiZulu. It's a children's book. So the reason why I wrote it was because I realized that in South Africa, not just in South Africa, in most African countries, children actually don't know how to speak or write in their own native languages. So that's why I wrote the book. The book is about a trip to the zoo, which is something that the children would obviously enjoy. And it talks about the
Mm.
South African Big Five. So I was still just looking for funding for it. It talks about the South African Big Five, which is our biggest tourist attraction. But yeah, it's written in Zulu because I realized that how you erase someone's culture is you start by when children don't really know how to communicate in their own languages or how to read and write in their own languages.
Mm. And correct me also, educate me. Is there a difference between, or is it called isiZulu or is it Zulu?
It's isiZulu.
isiZulu. So if you want to say,
Yes,
I speak that language, you say, I speak isiZulu,
yes, I speak
not
isiZulu.
Zulu. Zulu is
It,
actually the people, and isiZulu is the language, right?
yes, so Zulu is a tribe, and then
Okay,
isiZulu is the language.
language. Okay. Oh, wow. I've
Yes.
learned something today. So next time I see someone say, I speak Zulu, you don't speak the people, you speak the language. Okay.
Yes, you don't speak the people.
Language. Thank you for joining us on the show again. Tell us about yourself. I mean, I might know a little bit about you, but people watching us now might be thinking, who's this lady? Why is she on the show today? Although we're going to be asking you questions about why you're on the show today, but give a bit background to who you are, apart from obviously writing a children's book in isiZulu.
Yes, so my name is Nozibusiso Sibiya. I grew up in a village called Gwambonambi near Richards Bay in KZN in South Africa, in KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa. And I started writing when I was 7 because my mom used to buy me a lot of books. So that's when I started writing. And yeah, that's when I started writing and reading a lot. And then growing up, I grew up in a family that loved football. I feel like every African family watches football. And like I used to spend a lot of time with my uncles. And funny enough, my grandmother and my mother also love football. So that's
Wow.
why that's how I got introduced to football. I remember this one time, growing up in a village, they like I feel like when we were still young, obviously there wasn't electricity. So there was this house called Antutoli where we would go and watch football. Like I still have those memories, and then we'll go and watch Bafana Bafana and
Mm.
Nigeria with beaters. But yeah, we enjoyed those moments. And then yeah, that's how I got introduced to football. And then when I went to boarding school, finished matric, I decided that because growing up, obviously being a typical African girl, I always thought I was gonna be a doctor or a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then and then when you're in matric, you just realize that you know what? I've always loved writing and I talk too much, I think. And I'm curious about everything. And I'm curious about everything. So let me just do journalism. And then I did journalism. But when I started doing journalism in my head, I thought I was going to do entertainment for some reason. I don't know why. I think because I love music. So I thought I was going to do entertainment. And then what happened was, when we were doing a presentation third year, you were supposed to do a presentation in front of second years, and then they give you the marks. So that's the last presentation for third year when you majored in broadcast. So I was gonna do that presentation in entertainment in South Africa, and then this other lady had already taken the topic, and you can't do the same topic, so you can't choose the same topic. So my other friend was like, "Listen, we know you love sports, so why don't you do it about women in sports?" And then I did it about women in sports, and my favorite broadcaster in sports has always been Carol Shabalala. She's on Super Sports. So I did it about her. So my other friend who was already practicing journalism, he was an intern. He reached out to Carol and he was like, I've got a friend who's doing a presentation about you. So can you please just send a video, and then she will do the presentation about you, like your broadcasting career and everything. And because of that, I got like 98%. So I was like, you know what? I'm never going back.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
So that's very interesting. I mean, just like you said, a typical African family. I mean, coming out of one myself, you don't just say, especially when you've grown up in Africa, as it were, you
Yes.
don't just wake up one day and tell your mother and your father that, you know, when I grow up, I think I'm going to be a journalist. They're like, "Ah, what's wrong with you? What happened? What
Like
happened to being a lawyer? What happened to being an engineer or a doctor?"
that's the thing. Like, how do you tell your African parents that you just want to be a writer?
So I'd be like, "What? You're going to starve to death or something
Like,
in
is
a
that
right?"
even a career?
Exactly. It's not even a career. Exactly. So, you've had it seems smooth transition from being a student to a journalist, but I know deep down it wasn't that smooth for you. I read somewhere that at some point you had to was it wait for one of these top journalists in South Africa at the gate just because you wanted this guy, this person to mentor you. So how did that go for you?
My God, where did you get that information?
A journalist here, you know.
Wow, wow, you really
Exactly.
are a journalist. I respect
Thank
you.
you.
So what happened was I moved to Joburg. I'm this young girl from a village. I moved to Joburg, and then there's this reporter, sports reporter called Robert Marawa. He's great. He's amazing. Like I feel like everyone in South Africa, like every child who wants to be in the sports journalism industry looks up to him. So I've always loved him. You know, when you reach out to people on social media, but you know, those people have got like more than 100,000 followers.
Yeah.
So, this one time I was in Auckland Park where the studio is for Metro FM, which is SABC. So, I decided to just go inside. Luckily, the security guards were very nice. So, I decided to just go inside and I watched his show from outside. And then when he was done, I was like, you know what? Okay, first things first, the reason why I approached him was because his producer was very nice to me. like when we met on the corridors. She was very nice. Her name is Beverly Mapanga. They still work together. And she was very nice. So I was like, okay, maybe they are nice people because I mean you come from a village, you've never met a celebrity. So so I was like, you know what, let me wait for him. And then when he came outside, I was like, hi, Robert, my name is Nozibusiso. I'm from this village. He's also from a village. So he's like, oh, okay, cool. Let me just take your number. But I'm like, this person is so big. He's never going to call me, but it's fine. I've met him. And then he's like, let me just take your number and then you can come to the studio and then I'll mentor you. I'm like, ah, okay, fine. Let me give him my number, but let me not get my hopes up. And then next thing on a Friday morning, I get a text from him. He's like, "Hey, do you want to come to studio? I'm interviewing this person today." And then he says, like, at the end of the text, he says RM. And I'm thinking, who is RM who wants me in studio? I was so confused. And then I realized, oh my God, it's Robert Marawa. So now I don't know how to respond. Like, do I say, yay, I'm so happy? Or do I act professional? Like, what happens? And then I sent him a text. I was like, okay, cool, I'm coming. And then afterwards, we just like from that day onwards, he's just been mentoring me and looking at what I'm doing. And he's just a great mentor, and I really, really appreciate him.
Mm. Tell me what the transition from being, as you've said, a village girl to a city girl, because there's this transition that is not always easy for a village person, boy, girl,
Yes,
man, woman, to transit into a full-fledged city person, because obviously in the villages we are always usually very helpful. We care about
yes,
our neighbors, we want to know what's going on in the next house or in the next
yes.
compound. We want to know, but in the city life, nobody gives a hoot about who you are. They bump on you on the road. They don't even say sorry. You don't get people saying good morning, good afternoon, or good night. So how was it transiting into from being a village person to a city person?
Okay, so I think one thing that helped me was I went to a boarding school. So obviously in a boarding school, like there's different people. But when you get to boarding school, obviously, like you're saying, you're a village kid and there's this person that sleeps probably next to you and they eat in front of you and they don't share, which is so weird because it's just like, how do you eat in front of people and not share with them? And then that's when you start realizing that people are actually very different. And then
Hmm.
I moved, like in varsity, I was in another city which is called Durban. And then when I was there, I had already been used to being next to people who are very different from me because people are like that. And then you move to, but the thing about Durban people is most of them, they're originally from villages. So they do have what we call humanity, ubuntu. So they're not as bad as Joburg. Oh my God, in Joburg, I feel like you can live next to someone like for years, like your next door neighbor, and you wouldn't even know each other's name. And another
Wow.
thing, when I got to Joburg, I realized that people walk into rooms and don't even greet. Like it was so shocking to me. I'm just like, I don't even know you, but you're not greeting and you're already asking me for something. Like it's so weird, but you get used to it. I think like people
Mm,
are not the same and we were not raised the same. So I think you get used to it. But one
mm,
thing about me is I'm a typical village person. Like I've never changed.
mm. That's good. That's good. And obviously, your feeling. Let's talk about your feeling the first time you got interview about what you've been doing. And I know I've seen some of your interviews, some of them in
Yes.
isiZulu, and some of them obviously SABC and what have you. What was it like for you? Did you get the nerves? And was it more like the butterflies, the tummy, and what have you, getting interviewed by experienced people on national TV, national radio, and stuff like that?
Okay, so it's so funny because when you study journalism, obviously you do like radio projects or TV
Hmm.
projects or anything, like you do assignments on TV, especially since I majored in broadcast. But interviews are so scary. Like before this one, I was telling my partner, I'm like, I'm so nervous. What if they ask me about stats that I don't even know? He's like, but you know football. I'm like, no. I'm like, no, but what if they ask me something that I don't know? Like it's always the same feeling whenever you're about to do an interview. But the funny thing is, I don't know. I do my research, yes, but I'm lucky enough to always be interviewed by people that I feel like I can get along with even outside of studio. So I think that's why it's always been easy for me to just
Mm,
navigate through interviews, because the people that usually interview me are people who are actually trained as journalists or people who really, really love journalism. So they make it
mm,
very easy for me.
mm. And obviously, when you're looking about journalism and digital journalism now, South Africa is more like a yardstick for every African country to follow. I know people say, and it's a fact that Nigeria probably started the first TV station in Black Africa back in the days, but the advent of broadcast companies, organization like SABC, Super Sports, Mnet totally
Yes.
changed the scene for everyone in Africa. How has that really helped budding journalists like yourself and other people to realize their potential, so as it were, in journalism as a whole? So is there every opportunity there, for a typical person that went, just a typical South African that went to journalism school, studied journalism, college or university, to find their way into these places and be what they trained to be?
Can I be honest? I think like a lot of people, especially in in other African countries, they think because we have all these broadcasting companies, we actually have better opportunities compared to someone who's
Mm,
actually studying journalism in Nigeria, for example. But the truth is, there are actually no jobs in journalism, even in South
wow,
Africa.
wow.
Yes, that's the truth. Like there are no jobs in journalism even in South Africa, because when I look at my career, even though I've done the things that I've done, but it's actually been very hard for me to actually get jobs in journalism. Like it's very hard in South Africa, especially for writers, and especially in the industry also, like on television and radio, because sometimes I feel like I don't know what happens, but I feel like people think celebrities should be the ones who are getting jobs that are supposed to be done by journalists. And
Mm,
there's actually a very huge difference between a presenter and a journalist.
mm,
Because, for example, sometimes you can feel like even with the questions that someone's asking, that they don't even know like the integrities of journalism. And I don't know, like I feel like a lot of other Africans, especially African students, they feel like we have more opportunities in South Africa, yet that is not true. Like I was even watching the news about 2 months ago, and SABC retrenched more than 100 people though, which was very
wow,
heartbreaking.
wow. And I think, yeah, I actually follow that story because I think I was reading one of these newspapers out of South Africa, and I saw that. But it just like you say, it's heartbreaking. So when they let go of those numbers of journalists, where are they expected to go? Especially, you know, the fact that they were actually trained to be who they are, and SABC being probably tops in arguably tops in South Africa. Where do they expect people to go? Go to work in supermarkets or what have you? And in addition to that, would you say there are opportunities for people to probably um, set up something for themselves? Like, all right, I got gotten rid of by SABC. Am I able to sit down and probably start my own program? I don't know. Is there opportunities like that?
Okay, so let me say this as someone who's actually started something and working on something. The
Mm,
problem, and I'll say this because I've got friends in Ghana, like in the FA in Ghana. I'm not gonna name anyone, but and people like friends in Nigeria and Uganda. The problem in Africa is actually leadership, because
mm,
now we've got a lot of people who are unemployed. And then when they start their own thing, they actually do not have funding to start their own thing.
mm,
So even if you get, let's say you get retrenched at SABC and you want to start your own thing, running a podcast requires Wi-Fi. That's number one. Running a podcast requires Wi-Fi. Um, doing anything, running a foundation requires money for transports. It requires you to reach out to people, which means you need airtime and Wi-Fi, and you also need
Mm-hmm.
money. So I feel like if like we had a lot of funding for small businesses, then people could be starting podcasts and actually hiring other people and actually creating jobs. But because we lack funding, then it ends up being a point where like it's so heartbreaking because people feel like young Africans don't want to work in supermarkets, for example. But imagine you go to varsity for so many years, and then now you have to go and then you have to work in supermarkets, for example. And then when you're working there, you actually don't have enough time to invest in your craft. Because there was a time, like beginning of the year until now, until I got a new mentor who's like a very great writer. I was struggling with writing. And then he said to me, your problem is with not getting opportunities with where you live or where you stay, in writing especially, you are going to struggle because writing has always been another thing that you have to do. But you actually have to have another job, and then you have to write on the side, which is very draining compared to someone who's writing full time and actually getting paid for it.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, you've written for so many magazines, Kickoff magazine, for example. You've written football articles for them. You've written um, the other, another of your passion, entertainment and probably um, lifestyle. So,
Yes.
would that also uh, um, be a pointer to what people should be doing? You should try as much as possible to be a jack of all trades and not probably concentrating on one.
Yes. So actually, my advice to people would be that what has actually worked for me was it's networking. But now it's so hard to
Mm,
network with COVID. But networking
exactly.
actually works because when you meet someone at an event and you talk about what you do, then it's easier for them to reach out to you again instead of just waiting for opportunities. Because trust me, applying for jobs never really works. Like I've been unemployed before, and I've applied, like you can apply to 10 companies in one day and none of them are ever going to get back to you. So I think it's a reality in Africa, like it happens a lot. So I think actually just networking with people, because with every opportunity that I've ever gotten, it was because of my networking skills. Like I've never
Mm,
actually applied for a job on the internet and got called for it.
mm, okay. So if you're watching this, that's the power of networking. I mean, that's it's so important that you build a network and obviously reach out to people, because without that we cannot, I might not be able to speak with you now, because it was part of the network through your social media that we were able to obviously get you to talk to you. So we're
Yeah.
gonna go on a short break. When we come back, we're gonna talk about some of the other stuff I found about you, medium
Okay.
ugly, especially. I want us to
Oh,
talk about
wow.
that. Yeah, because it's actually something. Because in stateside today is Mother's Day, and we're celebrating our mothers, and obviously
Yes.
our mothers are our women, our
Yes.
children. They will become mothers. Our moms are already moms, mothers. So so we want to look at the African women, okay,
Yes.
and how we should be proud of what we are, Africans, African
Definitely.
women, and African men. So we're going to take a break, and obviously we'll talk about that. I'll be talking about your foundation and a bit about football and what you've done with
Not
Orlando
a
Pirates
problem.
and my favorite football team, Chelsea Football Club.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. We go on a quick break. Just stay there. And when we come back, we'll talk more. It's still the way
Not a
show.
problem.
Hello, it's the Way Show. My name is Wole, and I've been having a beautiful chat with a journalist and an author, uh, a content provider. Not a content provider. I said a content provider. Well, so anyway, I've been talking to Miss Sibiya. Let me try and pronounce your name again. Nozibusiso.
Nozibusiso.
Nozibusiso, and that's the
Yes.
mother of beauty,
Blessings. Blessings.
mother of blessings, mother of
Mother of
blessings.
beauty is Nobushi.
Okay, mother of blessings. I'm not gonna forget that. Okay, trust me, I won't. Okay, I'm talking to the mother of blessings anyway. So and she's right there in South Africa, and we've been talking about life as a journalist and the hurdles and how easy it has been, easy in quotes now, that journey from school to being a journalist. So we talked before we went on a quick break. We talked about networking, and part of the network you've built has actually really helped you. I mean, you've been able to network with big clubs in South Africa like Pirates, Orlando Pirates, big clubs international like Chelsea Football Club. Do you want to tell us about that network and what it was all about, and obviously, if you can, how you built it?
Okay, so how the network was built was I I reached out to Gareth. His name is Gareth Marshall. He's the brand manager for Shield in South Africa. Shield is called Renox and in the UK, I think. It's a deodorant. They sponsor
Oh yeah,
Chelsea.
yes,
Yes.
yes. Mm.
So I reached out to him and because they were doing a lot of work in the football space, in the football development space. So I reached out to him and I showed him my bio and my profile and everything. And then he was like, no, he'd reach out the next time when they have a campaign going on. And then I was just in touch. And then they invited me to their press conference. They were doing a Schultz Bonicityski, which is the campaign that involves Chelsea and Orlando Pirates. But at the time, like I wasn't involved. So I just went and I watched what was happening and then I wrote about it on the blog. And then the following year, they reached out to me, like very early in the year, they reached out to me and then they were like, you know what, we want to work with you and we want to work with you as an ambassador for Shield and an ambassador for the campaign. And because obviously I love football development, I was interested. And then we started working together and then we were going like across the country. We were going across the country and we were scouting kids in football developments. It was the age was 16 to 21. Like it can go over 21, but obviously with development, it has to end in 21. So we're scouting kids across the country for Chelsea. So how the competition went was it you we scout kids and then afterwards the 25 that are chosen they go to the HPC in Pretoria and then they train for like a week with the Chelsea Foundation and Orlando Pirates football development coaches and then they train for a week and then after a week they choose three players and then after that the players just go to and then after that the players go to train with Chelsea for like a week and then they come back.
Wow, that's quite interesting. How did you go getting? Because why I say that is we in the past we used to have quite a lot of South African players in the league. Obviously, people know about Benny McCarthy, who's now the Bafana coach.
It was my favorite player
Lucas,
ever.
that's easy. Okay, I met
Yeah,
him once.
it is.
I met Benny once during the Nations
I've
Cup.
actually never met him.
Wow. So 1-0 to me then.
Yeah, you are winning this one.
And obviously there are people also like Lucas Radebe, who was big over here, and Mark Fish is someone who quite very known to Charlton Football Club, not too far from where I'm talking to you from. But since then, there have been a shortage of South African players coming over to England. Why would you say that? Is it because they feel comfortable at home in South Africa, playing for the big teams, Kaiser Chiefs, Pirates, Sundowns, and what have you? Or are they? What would you say? This is not as it is, it used to be in the past.
Okay, so I think, to be honest, I hope no one's gonna sue me. I think for a country, I think for a country to have great football, you need to invest in football development. And I think the problem is with the players that we have in South Africa, they are great, yes. But if let's say you go to a scouting in the UK, you're competing with someone who's had a professional coach from the age of 9 and you've only ever had a chance to play like professionally at the age of 21, and so you can't really compete with those people. So I think perhaps that's the problem in South Africa. And another problem that I've seen, especially with the youth in South Africa, I'm going to make an example. There's this child that I worked with in the foundation, and his grades is amazing, but the problem with like rural areas and townships in South Africa is kids are exposed to alcohol. Like they can, like a 15-year-old can go and buy alcohol. And this one time I was on WhatsApp and I was looking at the statuses, and the next thing I saw this child, because he changed teams, he moved from the foundation and he went to another team, which is fine. But I saw him and he was in a bottle store. So you look at this person, he's very talented and he's 16 years old and he's already started drinking. So he can't really compete at the same level as someone who's still at like Chelsea Academy, for example. So I
That's
think
true.
perhaps that might be one of the problems.
That's true. That's true. That's true. And now that you've spoken about academy, let's talk about it. You, I found that very interesting. You know that you decided to start a football academy. I know you've always loved football. You spoke glowingly about how passionate you are about football. Your mom, your parents, your grandparents even love football. Why why start an academy? Uh, and I know it's a brilliant idea, especially because the academy is actually based in the rural area, and it is also meant to save people from, like you mentioned, alcoholism, drugs, gangs, and whatever. At least the academy will give them an idea that, you know what, if I keep on this path, who knows? I can play for Chelsea. If I don't play for Chelsea, I can play for Pirates or the Chiefs or Sundowns. So tell me about why you decided to start this academy and what you want to achieve, by starting it.
Okay, so the reason why I started it firstly, when I was growing up, my mother worked for an NPO called, is it an NPO? But it's a foundation
Mhm.
called World Vision. She worked for
All
them
right.
and they helped a lot of children. So I've always had a passion for helping other people. So because of that, I started the foundation because firstly, I wanted to make sure that kids do not get obviously stuck in drinking alcohol because they actually
Mm,
don't have anything to do. And how it started, it's so funny. I didn't think like I was gonna end up registering it or doing anything. So how it started was I was unemployed and I was like, you know what? I know a lot of people in the industry and let me just reach out to them to give me soccer boots because I've seen that kids here don't really play football, kids in the village. I was like, let me reach out to them for soccer boots. And then I started that fundraising and people actually donated. And then afterwards, I reached out to people for balls and they donated. And because I had that relationship with Shield was very helpful. They gave me 10 soccer balls. But with that campaign, also, Adidas was also involved. So Adidas has a partnership with Shield on the football development side. And they also sponsored Orlando Pirates. So I reached
mm,
out to Adidas as well and I introduced myself as a Shield ambassador. And then after that, Adidas gave me about 25 soccer boots and 12 soccer balls. So from that day onwards, I was like, you know what, let me just focus on this because the reason why I started it was we're not just raising children to be professional soccer players, but as a child growing up in a village, if you find that someone believes in you and someone thinks that you can be something outside of just staying in the village, outside of being an alcoholic, for example, and outside, like if you've got a brand that sponsors a team like Orlando Pirates or Manchester United, which is Adidas, sponsoring you at that very young age, then obviously you're going
mm,
to be very ambitious as a human being because of that. So that's
mm.
why I started the foundation. I wanted to instill confidence in rural children because I've always felt that children from the villages are very smart, but they just need someone to believe in them.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Let me just welcome Professor Emmanuel Mogaji. He's been on this show before, and I think he's been taunting me to say, saying see you in the Champions League. Let me just raise this to you again, Prof. Yeah, definitely, we're going to see you in the Champions League. We're going to see in the Champions
Oh
League,
my
and
God.
hopefully at the end of it, we would be sipping something out of this cup. But let me just sip a little bit before we carry on. Thank you, Prof, for joining us on this show. So, as you can see, Prof, I also have someone who's done something with Chelsea Football Club before. So, um, we are outnumbering you today. So, so yeah. So the foundation has been ongoing for a while now, and obviously there have been support here and there from big companies. How's the foundation been received um, by the people um, it's meant to support? I mean, are the families, especially the parents that have got kids registered to your foundation, are they quite in tune with what you're doing or what you're proposing to do? Because some people will just, I think all they have to do is just play football. I don't want that, but have they accepted the foundation where you are?
The parents have actually, which is very amazing. So the village where I come from as a type of a village where a child is raised by one. Like I was raised by a village, and they're very supportive in all that I do. So they very involved because my big brother has a development team as well, which is the reason why I started the foundation, by the way. He's been running the development team for 15 years, and you see with the kids that he's developed with the money from his own pockets that they grow up to be very responsible people. So that's why I decided that no, you know what, let me help him and the other teams that are playing there, let me just help them. And then afterwards, people started supporting me. So the parents are very supportive, and also people in the community who don't even have kids who are playing in the foundation are very supportive. Because I remember before the tournament, someone donated money for catering when we were going to have a
Wow.
tournament because they were just happy with what I'm doing. So I can safely say that the parents and the community are very supportive.
Mm, mm. And what do you say to people watching today and probably thinking about, I want to I want to start a foundation. I want to do something to help my community. It might not necessarily be football. It might be in athletics. It might be in chess. It might be in boxing. What do you say to them as they're watching you, especially the fact that you've got experience of starting one and uh, in football development?
Okay, so what I can say to people is when you're starting a foundation, firstly, you're not gonna make any money anytime
All right,
soon.
that's it. No foundation for me then.
Like you're not gonna make any money anytime soon. That's the first thing.
Mm,
And then the
mm,
second thing is okay, the first thing is you're not gonna make any money. Second thing is you need to do it on something that you're really, really passionate about. Because like I'm saying, you're not making money. So
mm,
my passion has always like from a very young age until now, my passion has always to develop a black child. So with that, whether it's education, whether it's sports, whether it's music, I feel like I can do more in that space. There are people who can do more, and obviously you don't even have to donate things. Like there are people who are passionate about mental health, and imagine someone starting a foundation where they go to villages and they talk to parents about depression, and they tell
mm,
parents like the signs like that you can see when your child is depressed, because obviously African parents don't have that kind of information. So people need to start a foundation in something that they really, really passionate about, and you'll see like everything just it just happens.
mm. It's very brilliant. Good words from you there. Talking about mental health now, that takes me to the issue of medium ugly. As I mentioned before we went on the break. Thank you to Bimbo Adela for joining the show. Thank you for those kind words. So there was an article I read, and it was really very touching, addressing the nature of the black person, not just the women now, but also the men, and you termed it as medium ugly. And nowadays, especially on social media, we've had so much. negativity coming out of it. Just last week, football clubs and footballers in this side of the world in United Kingdom decided to boycott the social media. Okay, and they said, enough is enough. You guys in this social media, you're not doing enough to tackle that racism, that bigotry, and what have you that's been spilling out of social media for God knows how long. And your piece about media muggling kind of like tackles that and more like telling people about believing in who you are, believing in the color of your skin, believing you are a human. Tell us about what made you write, that um, that article, Media Muggling, and what you hope to achieve by it.
Okay, so firstly, I feel like because I write a lot about football, I feel like sometimes I don't cater for other women who are not into football. So sometimes I just go out of my way to write either about mental health or being a Black woman or like the challenges that we face as Black women. And
Mm,
one of the challenges that we faced as not just Black women, but also as Black people, as the challenge of colorism, where you find that a person who's lighter skinned is more preferred than a person who has a dark skin tone, which is
mm,
very embarrassing that it's still happening in this day and age because people think just because they laugh at you, let's say they laugh at you when you're still in primary school because you're dark skinned and then you get over that, they think it's just something that it's like, how someone would laugh at you for being skinny, like they used to laugh at you,
mm,
and then they move on from that, not realizing that there's things, especially where skin is concerned, it's actually a systematic thing. Because now the problem with that is that I remember I did my research. I even wrote in the article where you found that companies that are white owned actually prefer to hire light skinned men who actually just have bachelor's degrees compared to dark skinned men who have like higher qualifications and who have more work experience. And you find that in most African countries, with South Africa being in 35%, and Nigeria being in, but it's more than 50%, the skin lightening products are still being bought because people want
mm.
to look lighter. And I remember even like there's this lady called, her name is Cynthia, and she's from Ghana. And we were talking to her about the situation, like the colorism situation. And she was telling me that when foreigners used to move to South Africa back in the day, they would lighten their skin because people could
Wow.
see that that's the thing, like people could see that you're from West Africa because of how dark you were, so they would lighten their skin so that the police do not stop them. So it's not like something that is so small, because people,
Mm,
when you correct them on social media, they think it's nothing, but it's actually something that affects us as people and as Black people. Because even when you look at the situation where back in the days of slavery, the darker skinned slaves were not allowed to come into the house of their masters. Yes, the light skinned slaves would be allowed to go in and actually clean the house. And then in apartheid in South Africa, people who were light skinned were looked as more pure compared to the dark skinned people, and you have more chances of being stopped by police if you're darker than a person, of being profiled by police, of being profiled by racists if you're darker compared to a light skinned person. So it's actually a very scary thing if
wow.
you think about it.
It is scary. It is scary. And obviously, South Africa, we a lot of us look to South Africa as a country that have been able to assimilate, and accommodate different shades of color, and that's why it's called the Rainbow Nation. Um, has that gone? Uh, at the moment, because I know in the past couple of years we've had some tensions in especially the some areas in South Africa where there have been tensions between particular sets of nationalities and the others. Have, have the coming together of different races, have they really shaped South Africa? Do we, what we see from outside, is that what is happening in South Africa. We see people. Like I was watching a film recently, shot in Durban, and I was like marveled. I was like, is that really South Africa? It's beautiful. Durban, it's beautiful. You know, well, is that working relationship? You've spoken about if you're darker skin, you get stopped more than white skinned person. It happened here in England where we are. Okay. So is that really pronounced in South Africa? Is South Africa what we see, or is that more to South Africa that we do not know?
I think, to be honest, I hope no one sues me for this.
I know.
But I think, to
Hopefully
be
not.
honest, South Africa is still very much racist,
Mm,
and also South Africa is still very much xenophobic. Because what I've always been saying to people, because I've got those relationships with people who are based in Ghana. I've got those relationships with people who are based like all over Africa. And the sad thing about that, about coming from South Africa, is you first have to explain to the person that you're not xenophobic for the person
wow.
to take you seriously. Like you have to tell them that I'm against this, and I understand that this happens in my country, but I'm against it. And I even reached out to a lady in Ghana, and we're trying to work together. But we're gonna announce the partnership as soon as it's out in Uganda. I mean, but we were actually talking about that. I'm like, I feel like a lot of kids in South Africa don't really know a lot about other African countries. And I remember in high school we had this teacher from Zimbabwe, Mr. Chituku, and I didn't really realize at the time what was going on with the other learners, like the way they discriminated him. And then, like, when you realize, especially like at that age, we are only 15, but that means that's something that someone is learning from home. Because how can you be xenophobic at 15?
Mm,
Because like you're supposed to see a black person as another black person. So I feel like as South Africans, like we still need to educate each other. But I don't know. I'm also just like, I don't know, in terms of educating adults, I don't know. But I feel like there's always a way to educate each other. And I like what Patrice Motsepe said when he actually got the position at CARE, that he's going to visit almost every African countries just to reach out to them and everything else, because I feel like there's a lot that we need to do as South Africans to learn more about other African countries and especially other African cultures.
mm. So, Professor Magaji is come back to us to say it's always nice to establish that football is not the men's game. It's not men's game. We need support for everyone, and that's true because today, you see me, I've been flashing this all day, yeah, because our
Yes, you
female
have.
team, our ladies team just won the WSL in England,
Oh,
back to
wow.
back,
That is
which
so
is
amazing.
it's amazing. And I've never seen a female team brought me so much joy. Well, apart from our Super Falcons of Nigeria, obviously, um,
Obviously.
obviously. So female football nowadays, it's blowing off the roof. Chelsea Football Club ladies team is already also in the Champions League final, and people are beginning to slowly realize that, hold on, the women's game is really jumping up, and we might be talking about the first £1 million or £10 million player transfer from, I don't know, probably PSG to Chelsea at some point. I don't know. So what's the outlook like in South Africa, especially with regards to female football? And we used to know about the Bayana, and yeah. So what's the outlook like over there?
Okay, so I think the outlook now in South Africa and women's football is that it's growing. Women's football in South Africa is really growing. We now have the National League, and I sit on the board of Durban Ladies, which is a team that is based in KZN, and they've been around for the past 30 years, 31 years now, I think. They started in 1990. So women's football is growing in South Africa. I think one thing that they really lack is sponsorship, because I know
Mm,
that with Durban ladies, for example, like they struggle with like even getting kids. Like they have to, the founder, which is Mary Jane Sokela, has to actually take the money out of her own pocket to buy things like that, which is very sad. But I'm happy that the National League started. But also, if you look at other African countries, like if you look at Nigeria, you look at Ghana with what they're doing in women's football. And also, you look at Cameroon, where they actually have a football academy for young girls called Patricia Football. And then also with South Sudan having just launched the league now, and also having trained the women there for a KFC license. It's just amazing. It's nice to see women's football growing in Africa. And also with with Nigeria, I actually interviewed one of your youngest players, Christy Uchebe. She's turning 20 this year. Yeah, she was 19 last year. And she's amazing. She's amazing. She's currently playing for Benfica now in Portugal, and she's an amazing young lady. She's also very well disciplined. So looking at women like that, looking at people like Zenetha Coleman coming from Namibia, being the national team captain, and now being in La Liga for like the past 4 seasons, that's amazing. So I think women's football in South Africa is slowly growing. We just need corporates in Africa to actually just invest in it.
And that's I say amen to that, because that seems to be a peculiar problem in Africa. Because here, over here on this side of the world, in America, female football is massive. I mean, you've seen the examples of Rapinoe, and the other girls. The World Cup, the last World Cup, was really an eye opener to what women can do with regards to female football. And it's been, I tell you, for the past, when this season started in England, I was not really very passionate about our male football team. That's Chelsea Football Club. I found my solace and my joy in watching the women, because we were losing so many games, the men, and obviously the women were like beating everyone. I was thinking, I'm just gonna dump these men. They're useless. I'm gonna follow the women now. You know what I mean? Until there was a change of manager, and things starting to look up now. But I tell you, women football is going to be the next big thing, definitely. I just hope and pray, just like you said, the sponsorship in Africa will come, and obviously, the authorities, football bodies in Africa will realize that female football should be where it is, at par with their male counterparts. Because you look at all the players you've mentioned just now, African players doing wonders in abroad, in La Liga, Oswala, Rashida, so many, and it's wonderful to see that our girls are doing what the boys cannot do. They're doing far better,
That's the
and we need
thing.
to realize that back home in Africa, and obviously support them.
No, that's the thing. And I feel like you're saying, we need to realize that and actually support them, because I remember this one time I was talking to one of the players that I interviewed, and she actually was struggling with getting sponsorship for soccer boots. And
Wow.
I'm thinking, but how are you struggling when you're in such a big league? But yeah, we're gonna get to that. Hopefully, we're gonna get to that soon, because corporate really needs to move to that instead of doing
Mm,
just adverts about women's football and not sponsoring the game.
mm, mm. Well, before we go, I just wanted to again say a few words about to encourage that girl, that woman that is watching today. I'm thinking, all right, that's someone I totally enjoyed journey so far. Journey from being, and yeah, and Robbie in Yomi. That's our girls here. We beat Reading today 5-0 to win the Women's
Oh
Super League
wow.
title. Back to back. It's 4 times in 6 seasons. I'm
I'm
loving you,
laughing at
girls.
that. We know how we are.
I'm loving you, girls. Yeah, keep that going. Keep that going. If the men don't do it, I'll keep following the women, definitely. So yeah, maybe that little girl sitting out there thinking, I like to be a journalist. I like to do what she's doing. I like to follow her footsteps. What do you say to them?
Okay, so what I would say to that little girl sitting there thinking they want to be journalists is, you need to write a lot. I feel like that's the first thing you do in order to be a journalist. You
Mm,
write a lot, you read a lot, and on top of that, you watch what's happening. Because there is no journalism school that ever accepts you just because you applied. They actually do interviews and they write tests just to
mm,
check your knowledge in sports and and current affairs and everything else. So I think if you want to be a journalist, just stay curious, write, and read a lot.
Hmm. You've heard that from someone who's been there and who's still on the road to greatness. And I want to thank you so much for taking your time to talk to us today.
Thank you so
I
much.
must say I've learned quite a lot from you today. If I've not learned anything, I think it's that I've known how to differentiate between the Zulu nation and the Zulu language. Okay,
Yes.
I know that now. So I will not say anybody. I speak Zulu. No, I don't speak the people.
You don't
It's
speak the
Zulu.
people, you speak the language.
Thank you so much, Mother of Blessings, for coming on our
Thank
show
you.
today. And
Thank you,
hopefully we
Wole.
would get you back at some point. And we'll definitely will be following your foundation. We're going to be
Thank
following
you.
everything you're doing, and we wish you every bit of luck and all the best. As you continue to help that child, the African
Thank you.
child, to greatness, because that's all we are all about. Furthering our cause. The fact that we're African and doing the best for our mother Africa. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining the show, and hopefully we would um, come up and speak with you sometime soon. And say hello
Thank you
to
so
everyone
much.
in South Africa. Okay.
I will definitely. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you.
Already. Bye.
So that's the show for today, and I hope you've enjoyed every bit of all we've talked about today. Yeah, we'll be promoting football game. Thank you, LinkedIn user. We don't know who that is. We talked about female football today. We talked about journalism itself. We talked about the foundation. Oh my God, and that's it, Yomi. Well done. Thank you for letting everybody know how old I am now. Well, yeah, it was my birthday yesterday, and yeah, um, this is the new 30. I feel 30, and well, yeah. So we were talking about, yeah, we spoke today about the foundation. We talked about female football, how we can promote female football. We talked about mental health, and obviously believing in who you are. And I strongly, I hope I can give you the link to this article she wrote. But if you can, just Google medium ugly, and by our guest today, Miss Mia. She wrote a brilliant article about we believing in what we are as Africans and believing in our skin, in our skin color. So if you can, Google it and read about that article. It is a brilliant article from her. So I want to thank you for joining us on our show today. Thank you so much for everyone that's commented today. It's been wonderful to be with you again today. Special thanks to Yomi, my colleague and friend and producer. Professor Mogaji has been with us today. Thank you for joining, Professor. Sandra Sylvester, thank you for everything you've been doing. Thank you for also the birthday presents from you and the kids yesterday, and to the LinkedIn user and Fifi. Thank you for joining us, and the Shobumi Omoho. I also want to say thank you, and to Bimbo Adiola for joining us on the show. Thank you. And for all the other people that have joined us on the show and that made comments, sorry, I cannot mention all your names, but keep them coming. Keep the comments coming. If you like what we're doing, don't forget to subscribe to it, This Way Show, and tell someone about the Way Show. Have a look at all we've done, our previous videos. Okay, if you like them, give us a thumbs up. All right. Until I come to your way, to your screens pretty soon. I remain Wole, and hope you have a wonderful week ahead. And don't forget, all right, keeping safe out there. All right, whatever you do, keeping safe. Before I go, I just quickly take another last words from Professor Magaji, who said, "Congratulations on your ladies' team, but I also think having a woman lead a charity supporting football is noteworthy." Thank you so much, and we'll pass on the message to Miss Bia, who will join us today from South Africa. So until I come on your way next time, please be safe out there, and whatever you do this week, make sure you do it with a clean mind. All right. Love your neighbor. Thank you. See you later.